A police SUV pulls into the driveway. Lights flash once, then go dark. A man in uniform steps out. Badge, flashlight. He knocks. He isn't a police officer. In the next few minutes, a former Speaker of the House and her husband will be dead. A state senator and his wife will be fighting for their lives. How did one man get close enough to assassinate one of the state's most powerful lawmakers and nearly take out a second? The answer would trigger one of the largest manhunts in modern Minnesota history. Melissa Hortman had spent years in Minnesota politics, eventually rising to Speaker of the State House. She was known, colleagues said, for building bridges across party lines. Her husband, Mark, was by her side that night. Neither of them knew that a man had been watching them, studying their homes, learning their routines for months. His name was Vance Luther Boelter, 58 years old, and by the time police understood what he had done, he wouldn't be finished. It was an ordinary night on an ordinary street. Nothing about the evening suggested what was coming. Outside, someone had already decided how it would end. On the night of June 14th, 2025, Boelter put on a police uniform he had no right to wear. He drove to the Hortmans' home first. What happened inside that house would end two lives. A few miles away, State Senator John Hoffman and his wife Yvette had no idea they were next. Both were shot. Both survived, but not without permanent injury. When police arrived and realized what was happening, Boelter didn't surrender. He opened fire on officers and ran, on foot, into the dark, into the Minnesota countryside. And for the next 2 days, he simply vanished. For 2 days, hundreds of officers searched the countryside surrounding the Twin Cities. Roadblocks, K-9 units, helicopters overhead. A man who had spent months planning an assassination was now just a man in the woods, running out of time. After nearly 48 hours on the run, the hunt was over. Officers surrounded him in Sibley County. One of the most heavily watched fugitives in the state was finally in custody. More than a year later, Boelter stood before U.S. District Judge John R. Thunheim and pleaded guilty, avoiding the death penalty through a plea agreement. He apologized in court. The judge wasn't moved to leniency. He handed down 2 consecutive life sentences, plus 40 years, every day of it, to be served, one sentence after another. Judge Thunheim called it the longest sentence he had imposed in thousands of cases. He said simply, it was deserved, but the sentence doesn't undo what survivors now live with. Senator Hoffman told the court that he and his family no longer receive mail at their own home, that they installed steel doors, that his body and his wife's now carry the memory of that night permanently. And there was one more name the public rarely hears: State Representative Kristen Boehner. Boelter had gone to her house, too, that same night. She wasn't home. She later said she couldn't understand why she had been spared, and Melissa Hortman had not. Her words carry the weight the entire case leaves behind. She said she carries her colleague with her still, in her mind and in her heart. Melissa Hortman, 1970 to 2025. Mark Hortman, 1966 to 2025. Justice was finally served, but every solved case leaves behind more unanswered questions. Subscribe for more real crime investigations. Tell us in the comments, which case should we cover next?